Okay, I'm here to talk about one of my favorite genres of knife, and that is the modern adaptation of the Japanese Kwaiken. I touched on this in the R.J. Martin video. I had touched on the knives of Phill Hartsfield, the Kwaikens from Phill Hartsfield. In that video, I relayed a story of how I went out to California and I met Phill, and I went into his shop, and he was gracious enough to sell someone that didn't have enough money a Kwaiken. A Kwaiken is a Japanese style utility knife that has become very popular, and a lot of people even deem them tantos, even though they're not. But what they are is a very good everyday carry utility knife and defense knife. Most are chisel ground, even though they can be double ground. Phill Hartsfield kind of really invented this genre. He really brought the Japanese modern style adaptation of Americanized tantos or Kwaikens to the public. Ernest Emerson, I touched on this before, really took a lot of influence from Phill. A lot of great makers took their influences from Phill. Some geese are flying overhead right now. A hole only about 50 yards high, maybe less. Phill really brought that to the market. Lynn Thomas of Cold Steel kind of ran with the tanto type thing, but in my opinion, Phill will always be the godfather of the modern adaptation of the Japanese blade, which brings us to the subject, the Kwaiken. I have numerous swords, wakizashi, tanto, and different knives from Phill, but I have a pretty good Kwaiken collection, and an Aikuichi and a Kozuka also. The very first Kwaiken I got from Phill, and Phill was famous for his chisel ground blades, was this Kwaiken right here. And I'll show a good picture of it. Blade is about 5 1/4 to 5 1/2. This is not the original saya or sheath. This one is, I sent out to Phill about a year before he died. He did it in a Cape Buffalo hide that I had harvested in Tanzania. I sent him some skin. It's super, super worn. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece of rich Cape Buffalo. Phill was really kind enough to do that for me. It might even be one of the last sheaths that came from Phill. Could not be, I don't know. The original sheath got contaminated, so I asked Phill to make me a new one. Now, the genius of Phill's Kwaikens, and this is a Kwaiken. This knife is probably 25 to 30 years old. It's been carried everywhere. It's been a utility knife for me for years. The rough finish that everybody talks about on Phill's knives, that they wish they were more finished, they've never used his knives. This finish looks pretty much the same as it did 25, 30 years ago, and it's cut everything. Again, it's a chisel ground. It's very sharp, epoxy soaked resin, impregnated grip, super grippy, just a fantastic everyday carry piece. The genius of Phill's Kwaikens and why they carried so well was Phill took a piece of flat metal, and he would wrap the blade in it and then cover it with some type of I don't know what it actually is. It's a paper or a felt that would protect the blade. And these are, they're super rigid. You can adjust the tension by squeezing the mouth. It doesn't move when you just push on it. You have to actually give it some force, but you can adjust it to get your tension. As you can see, once you slide them in, oops, it was upside down. Oh, there it is, sorry. They slide in, but they really, really totally secure. Totally secure. That was the genius of these little knives, that they can be carried flat to the body, either behind the hip or cross draw. They fit snug, they're very secure, very, very quick. Phill, I believe, had these in guys of the Special Forces, hands, and that's the guys that came to Emerson and asked him to make a folding type version of this. And that's how I think Emerson really gives a lot of just respect and homage to Phill for kind of just getting him going with that chisel ground type blade design. Again, this is my first Kwaiken. This is the one that I got in his shop all those long years ago. So that's my very first Kwaiken. It'll always be a super special piece to me. The next Kwaiken I got is this piece on me right here. This one's hooked up, and I'm going to show you how the static line draw works. When you grab this Kwaiken and pull it, it's going to slide out of my belt. As soon as the line, or actually it stayed in my belt that time because the tension was good, but even if it wouldn't, as soon as the line gets to the end, which is tied right here, as soon as it gets to the end, the knife comes clean and draws quickly. This one is another 1/8 inch stock Kwaiken like the first one was. Phil's 1/4 inch Kwaiken is called a strong boy, and I have two of them here, I'll show them to you. This is my second oldest Kwaiken. Another remarkably beautiful piece from Phill. I carried this knife to Africa the first time. This is in a metal sheath like the others. This one's wrapped in elephant hide. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. This Kwaiken is the Kwaiken I seem to carry the most these days. I wear a lot of black suits, things like that. It blends in. I go behind the hip like that, and suit jacket, no one knows it's there. If I get into a car, I can rotate it right to the front and carry it cross roll like that. It's still super quick to draw, even sitting down. It's a super great way to carry, like I said, an everyday utility knife or defense piece. All right, moving on to the strong boys. This was my dream Kwaiken as a young guy. I just wanted one of these so much. This is my first one from him. Again, elephant hide covered sheath, black handle, and just, I mean, the 1/4 inches where Phill can get in the fluting in the top and really start to get some really beautiful, you know, shapes. Just very, very handy knife. Super, just beefy. These are the strong boys. Again, this was a dream knife of mine years ago. I can remember the day I got it. It was probably, I don't know, 18, 20 years ago. How psyched I was. Just awesome. Next is this strong boy. I had purchased this on the used market and I was so happy to get it. Brown leather saya, natural colored, hemp type wrap. Love that it's got the Turk's head in the center, just really fits in the palm, like a little palm swell. My dog just ran above us. Tuco, come! Again, just a beautiful little strong boy. When I saw this knife become available on the secondary market, I had purchased it. It's just an awesome knife. I had seen a few of these done like this, and they're just an incredible. Love the utilitarian hemp, natural hemp look, just an awesome knife. Phill used to sit at the shows with a block of wood and a rope, and he'd stand there and he'd pop, 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 and it would look like the rope was melted. The cut was so clean. And he would do it for hour after hour just to show how well he had mastered the tempering of A2 to keep his edges that were just, they ran like the Energizer Bunny. He could just go all day long cutting rope, and it had a burnished look. Very cool. The next piece is a little Kousaka, a little neck knife. Again, because these knives have such great purchase in these little metal leather cutlery sheaths for a neck knife, very rigid, but you pull hard enough. Nasty little Kousaka. A Kousaka is the small little accompanying blade that is carried in the saya of some swords. These were the ultimate little, small little utility, just quick little, you know, last ditch utility type knife. Today still makes a great neck knife or even a great little EDC. Super little, very interesting little, very sharp little nasty blade. The last piece, again, is a piece that I had found and always wanted one, and it is the Kwaiken Aikuichi. And an Aikuichi is a guardless style blade. It's a little bit longer. The Tontos are, not the Tontos, I'm sorry, the Kwaikens are all about 5 1/4-ish. This is a 7-inch blade almost. Again, leather wrapped sheath, brass type habaki, but no Turk's head on it. So hence the name Aikuichi, guardless. Longer blade, but still just a wicked 1/4-inch stock. Now this knife is a bit longer. You can start to flick it around and really, you know, see, you can develop power with this knife. It's a nasty weapon. This would be a definite armor piercer. You'll roll it around. Again, these round butts stick right into the back of your palm. Just very much so a nasty piercing blade. But it's got enough weight and purchase, and with the big flute cut down the side, it's got nice balance, nice taper. You can develop a ton of speed with it. So very wicked knife. Phill was just a pioneer. I'm so happy that he's receiving the respect that he's so well earned. It's justifying to see a very nice, good man get respect from a lot of very great people in the industry. And Phill Hartsfield, he really made this style blade super popular. You can see the neat little sculpture in the handle, and you know, it was a credit and a pleasure to know him and to be able to maintain his pieces. Hopefully these are some of the pieces my kids won't sell at the yard sale. They'll actually keep them and you know, hang on to them and give them to their kids. Thanks for looking. R.I.P. Phill Hartsfield. Thanks.